Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's no brush required. You probably forgot all about us because we've been away for a few weeks. Hopefully you haven't forgotten about us. And Barbara Reed, who's just popping on any second from now. Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Do you remember me?
I think I do. Tammy, somebody or other.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
How are you doing?
I'm really good. How about yourself?
Not too bad, although I'm still in Central Mountain Time.
Are you really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I get up at 4:30.
Oh my gosh. What is the actual time difference between where you are and where you work?
Hey Sean, 9 hours.
That's huge.
It's a big one. And you know, they say an hour or a day recovery per hour that you're back, right?
Oh yeah?
That's the
okay,
rule.
so you're on track. If you're getting up at 4:30, you're close.
I know. And the problem is when you're sitting in front of the television at 7 o'clock at night and you're like this, and you're down a well, you know, like you can't even crawl out of it. You know that feeling of you're so tired you can't keep your eyes open.
Yes, I know that feeling. Bye, Sean. Thanks for popping on.
Oh, we'll see you next time.
Go to your class. Get to that class.
Be a good student.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've been here, eh? So
I know. I almost didn't know what to do. I got my phone out and I'm like, oh crap, how do you do a live?
And then I'm thinking, okay, I have to like talk for the next little while and actually be dressed. And
I know.
We're both in bright colors today. Look at us.
We are, and look at those paintings behind you. Those vertical stripes are just popping.
Oh man, I can't tell you how much I love those stripes.
Are you enjoying it?
Very much so. And I think I've become quite good at the taping and the gloss medium. I think I've got a technique. And even with how many layers of paint it takes to get those stripes just right, it actually isn't just one fell swoop. It's done, some of them have to be done like 3 times. And the last time I've been using glazing liquid mixed in with the paint to give it a really nice, like it's weird. You get kind of, it's the rabbit hole of,
oh my gosh,
hard edge.
But isn't that the best? That's the best thing. That's what I'm chasing all the time, is that moment when you are doing something with your painting and all of a sudden 3 hours goes by because you're just so sucked into that one detail.
And stripes, like I think the stripes there took me a good chunk of Sunday when I did them. And it was just the stripes. I wasn't doing anything else.
Well, and some of those paint colors, they're pretty transparent. Those pinks are really transparent, right? So if you don't build the layers up slowly, they're not gonna have that pop that they have.
No. And then getting in, like, and then I'll go back and do a really skinny stripe that maybe only I can see. And it's like, oh, so exciting. It's silly. The things we do. I
know. It's a good rabbit hole. I like your rabbit hole.
Yeah, me too. So we're gonna just chat today.
No, she's waiting. We have a guest. We really should pull her on. I think I saw her here. Yeah. So it's a friend of mine that you met as well, Erika Gehringer. Although now I'm worried that I pronounced the D's hard as opposed to soft, but she can correct me if I'm incorrect. She and I met last year when we were doing a mastermind program with another friend of ours, Megan Woodard Johnson. And we just kind of clicked. Hey, Erika. How are you?
Hi, Erika.
How are you guys?
I'm good. And
not sweating this time that I met you last time. I was just
like, I know. Look, we're wearing the same hoodies.
We are wearing the same hoodies. But great taste.
I don't have any artwork behind me at the moment.
Oh,
because your artwork is all over the world.
I don't know at this point where they are. I've lost track of things.
Well,
Yeah, your art, like I've been seeing your paintings like all over Instagram and in different galleries, and you just got back from a big show. It's like, holy moly, a lot has happened.
It's been a little bit of a whirlwind lately. Yeah, I had a show installation in Philadelphia through a gallery that I belong to in here in New Jersey. I live in New Jersey. And he sets up a show at this gallery, at this hotel, and it is going to be up until July. So I was doing really large work for that, which I'm not normally known for, but I kind of liked it a lot, making some big pieces.
Yeah.
And then straight from that, I drove to Chicago, which was not the best idea to drive.
What's
from where? Now we're like, we don't actually, I guess, should we introduce Erika?
Yeah,
because I want to dive right into questions.
Well, I started to, and then you took
did.
over with the question. Well, we can back it up. You want to back it up, Erika? Are you okay with that?
Sure.
So usually we do start with like, where are you from? What do you do?
So rusty,
you know?
my God.
You're getting us after a 3-week hiatus, so we're very rusty.
That's okay. That's okay. I feel like because we know each other, we won't.
Yeah.
We didn't want to bog down with those details. But I live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, which is, I'd say, about 7 or 8 miles outside of Philadelphia, on the East Coast. And I've lived here for about, I don't know, a big chunk of time, over 12 years, I think. So it's a cool little scene in Philadelphia. Yeah. So that's where I'm from. But I'm originally from Mexico City.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. I did not know that.
Yes. I lived there till I was 19, I think. And I came up for college, and I've stayed ever since. So more of my life has been spent here than there.
And so
how do you pronounce your last name?
Oh. It is Gehringer. Sure. Yeah,
like Deningers. It's like our Deningers, which is the greatest deli in town.
Yeah.
Some people say Denninger. So, but you're Denninger. So you're like Gehringer.
Yes.
Gehringer. Okay.
Correct.
Like Denninger.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So when you came to the U.S., was it to go to art school?
It was, I was at a liberal arts school, and I studied painting and drawing. So I didn't really go to an art school. I don't think I was quite ready at that point for that. So I think my art career started a lot later, believe it or not, because I did graphic design right out of college. So I did study it, but I didn't really paint or do any of it. I didn't really use it until much later.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you and Barb have another thing in common, that you were both teachers.
Oh, yes.
Are you still teaching?
I took this last year off. I took what's called just a leave of absence. I wanted to see if I could explore just being an artist full time.
Yep.
And it's been awesome. It's been great.
Yep. And
I've gotten so much done and made a lot of different connections. But I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back in the fall.
Really?
I know. There's some life things going on in my life that, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go back. Not unfortunately, but, I was on this path, but I need to be able to support myself too.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, but you've got so much steam going. Like when you and I met last year, you were kind of, you had been painting for a while, you had been having some success, but you were not really putting yourself out there, right? And then this last year, you have just been doing all the shows and all the things, and like going for it in a really, really, really big way. And do you feel like that you've made enough, you've got enough momentum going now that we're going back to teaching, you're going to be able to maintain that? Because you've already made a lot of inroads, right?
Yeah, I really feel confident that I can. When I was teaching, I was still painting a lot in whenever I could, on the weekends or at night if I had a chance. Any free moment, that's when I was doing it. So I feel that I can go back to that. And you're right, I've made connections, I've made just some headway, and I think it's what feeds my soul. So I think I'm just gonna find time. You always find time for the things that you love doing. So.
Yeah. Well, and you must have a ton of energy, because I remember teaching, by the end of the day, that was it. I was, there was nothing else I could do. So good for you. What grade are you going to be teaching?
So I've been teaching at a school nearby. It's a middle school. So it's grades 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So, you know, it's exhausting. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's pretty exhausting. So most of my painting happened on the weekends when I had some free time. So I was lucky enough that, so I have a 12-year-old son. So my husband, you know, they would kind of go and do things to give me that big chunk of time to be able to paint. So you just, you know, things that are important. I always say, like, you make time for them. If you have time to watch TV, you can.
No, it's really true. But it seems to me like, you know, the all of the connections and I hate the word networking, but you know what I mean? Like the time you need to devote to that side of the art practice and building that, that's hard to do when you're working full time. So this year has been that springboard for you to be able to make those.
And I think, you know, I learned something really, you know, we did that mastermind class. And the big thing that I took away from that was that you have to build relationships with people. And it can be a quick message on Instagram. And that's all it takes. So you have your lunch break and you can find a gallery that maybe you're interested in, or you feel like your artwork would work well. And that's what I've been doing. I've just been sending emails and reaching out to people and saying, your gallery looks like a place where my artwork would fit. If you've ever looking to expand your roster, you know, let me know. And, you know, it's worked out in more than one occasion. So it's these little things that I think you just need to follow your heart with, follow your gut too. If you're feeling that something might work, you should just make that connection. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's going to come to something.
Well, good for you. Because I mean,
fearless.
What's that?
Yeah.
You seem fearless.
Oh, yeah. I guess you just have to be. You just have to go for it.
Don't ask,
you know,
don't
your passion.
Get. And we keep hearing about approaching art galleries and like, well, don't walk in the front door and talk to them, and don't do this, and like, don't make eye contact. And so what was your, like, basically it's like, you know, the onus is on the artist to do it very discreetly and sensitively. So you would email galleries or? No.
So what's happened in the gallery that it represents me in New Jersey, we started liking each other's posts. I just started noticing, you know, the artists that he had were works that I would have in my home. And I think my artwork would fit really well in there. And then I noticed that he was liking my things as well. So once you get that reassurance from them, you know, that they're following you and that they're kind of watching you, then I just sent them a message on Instagram and just said the same thing I just said. I said, you know, if you're ever looking to expand, you know, I'm happy to send over my work. Just very non-committal. And the same thing happened recently with a gallery in New Hampshire. And she was even intimidated to reach out because she didn't want to step on anyone's toes. So she felt like I'm already in a gallery and she didn't want to sort of steal me from them. So it's interesting that they were hesitant to make the first move.
Think about that, right? We don't think about the other side. We always get so focused on our perspective.
And then I just started, I sent the same message and she wrote right back and she said she really liked my work, and we kind of worked out a thing where I was going to send her 6 paintings. So that's kind of my next project. And then she was just going to see how it goes from there. So,
Well, your work is stunning. I wish you had a painting behind you, because your work is so beautiful and
I know. Thank
colorful.
you.
It would fit in with our color scheme today. I think.
It would. I literally don't have. I'm in the process of moving. Of nothing. I've got nothing.
You got nothing.
But people can check out, you know, my Instagram and then there.
And we'll share.
We'll put some images.
Share all of that after.
We'll put some images up afterwards. But I mean, your process to me is fascinating. Are you still using projection to do your work? I think it's amazing. Something that never I'd never thought of before I found your work.
Yeah, how it all started was I took a printmaking class a million years ago just for fun. I was in Maine, and I really liked people's handwriting, and the teacher made that suggestion. He had like this little mini projector, and he said, why don't you take people's handwritings and then just project them onto this piece of paper and see what happens? And then like they were overlapping, and they created like this really cool design. And I loved it because the composition is always what is hardest for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by projecting images, it makes it a little bit easier on my end. Because what I really love is the color mixing and that process of thinking of the colors and the combinations. And even though I'm still thinking of the composition, because I'm placing, several images on the canvas, and, there's certain things you have to think about with that, but it just made that one step so much greater. So I went from handwriting, and then I just started taking pictures of anything, of patterns on walls that interested me, things around my house. I've taken pictures of piles of clothes, of boxes of cables, and just things that are my junk drawer, things that are kind of disorganized and give me anxiety because they're disorganized. So by projecting them on a canvas and then reinventing them and making it something beautiful, it gives it a new meaning. So I think a lot of my work is about new interpretations of things. But yeah, the projector is one of my best tools.
Is it like a normal, like what kind of projector? I'm thinking like a classroom projector, like the kind that you used to write on with the, really?
Yeah. Well, no, not those with the lamp above. And it's just like a projector from a classroom. I don't know, Barbara, if you have those. Like, it's small and it connects to my computer. So whatever image is on my computer, it'll project onto the canvas.
So you can make it. So you're working on a huge canvas. Will the projection, will it expand to fit that?
Up to a certain point. My studio isn't that huge, so you can back it up, or you can move the easel up and down, or move your canvas away. And there is some improvisation. It's not an exact replica of the projection, but it helps with some of the basic forms of what I'm using. So
and then
it's a great tool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, totally great tool, a different way to start a painting instead of just throwing stuff down and then hoping that the paint lands in a certain way and you get inspired. But then you just take a pencil or charcoal and kind of flesh out.
I started using pencils, like a regular #2 yellow pencil, but I found that it smudged a lot. So I've been using a color pencil, like an orange color pencil, because I use a lot of oranges and pinks. So that way it doesn't smudge. It just blends naturally. It's easy to paint over. But color pencils are smudgy and gross. They don't work very well for what I do. Yeah.
And you're working on, right?
I am. I mostly work on canvas. And some paper work, just little, I've been doing like teeny little paper paintings, more like color compositions, just little color practices almost, but people like them.
Yeah. And it's good to be able to bounce back and forth between two very different types of projects. At least I find that for my brain, because, sometimes you'll get stuck on a particular scale, and it's just fun to play on some other surface. But especially I was working on these really, really large canvases, and then I had to paint something smaller, and I was like, this is so fun, I'll be done in no time.
Be done in half an hour, done before lunch, and do another one after lunch. Small is like, if you're painting large, and for me this is a really large painting. For me, going small, it's like, for me 24 by 24 now feels small. It feels like nothing.
So true.
Yeah.
And especially
it's like my arm can reach to the other side, and I don't have to keep moving it around and throwing it.
But it's also really cool if you keep the same size tools when you scale back down, because now you've got like these really, really great big gestural marks that I have a hard time making on a big canvas.
Yeah, I agree 100%, because I use if you saw the size brush I use, it's like a tiny #2 most of the time. Like, and I don't know why I insist, because a lot of my lines are really crisp and really. And then when I went bigger, I was using bigger brushes. I'm like, oh, this is freeing. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So you're mostly I guess you're mostly brushes for what you're doing. You're not getting into the strange tools that we use.
No,
this kind of thing.
I'd love to use something like that at some point. It's all brushes, just no palette knives, nothing like that. But, you know, who knows? Maybe one day I will.
Well, even in the time that I've known you, your work has changed, because you've started to, so the original work that I saw, the lines were very, very crisp and sharp. And now you've started to play around a little bit with smudging and blurring some of those shapes, making them a little more organic, I guess.
Yeah. You're right. They are. And it's changing, too, in the sense that they were purely abstract, and now I'm dabbling in some landscapes a little bit, where they're looking a little more representational. You can definitely tell that they are landscapes, even though they're still colorful, and they're like loose interpretations of landscapes. But it's been fun to try to do something a little more realistic. But, you know, realistic.
Yeah, but again, you know what the thing is, the viewer then has something to grab onto, right? The challenge, as always with our abstract art, is people who don't know if they understand abstract art get kind of hung up on not knowing what they're looking at.
Like, what is it?
Yeah.
They want to see stuff. They really want, there's a person over there. Well, not really, but okay. It doesn't have to.
And then do you find that once they tell you, you can't unsee it, right? Like, you can't.
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes
I don't see it. Sometimes I do not see it. But was it you, Tamara, that had a duck with a headband on?
Yeah. And a garden gnome. And my husband, I'm still training him. He'll walk into the studio and he'll say, "Oh, I see a duck with a headband on." I'm like, "Why did you tell me that?"
Yes. There it is again. You should be painting a whole duck series.
I know.
No, don't.
Don't say it. There was once pregnant woman. No. There was a pregnant woman in one of my paintings that somebody saw, and I was like, I can't unsee that now.
And it's like, and then you look at all your other stuff and go, yeah, there she is again.
Yeah, I know. And then you start wondering about your subconscious.
Right.
What's going on in there?
Why am I painting a duck with a headband? What is it the universe is trying to tell me?
Yes, well, actually, Barb and I often comment on other things that we see in paintings. But
actually, we both see the same things. And then once you start seeing those kinds of things,
you
every
not see them.
Yes. I think I know what
we'll share after. We'll share after.
Sometimes a cigar is not a cigar.
Yeah. A hot dog.
A flower is not a flower.
Exactly.
Not always a flower.
A lot of flowers in mine, apparently.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well,
so where were you just at? Weren't you just at some big? I want to hear about this.
Yes, I went to, I've been doing the other art fair for a few years now. The first one I did was in Brooklyn, New York, and it was my first fair, and it was fantastic. I had a great time. It was right after the pandemic started lifting, and the regulations were lifting a little bit, and I think people were just so, just in their homes so much that they wanted things for their apartments and their houses. And I did really well on that show. So then I instantly thought all my shows were going to be like that. And then the reality hit, and I went to Chicago last year, and it was not great. I mean, I love Chicago. It's a great city, but I didn't do well at all. It was really hard. It was really emotional. It was like a big, you know, it's hard on your ego a little bit. When you spend so much money and you're there for 4 days and you see people selling, and you want to be happy for them, but you're kind of dying. You want some of that for yourself.
Yeah, of course.
But with that, I met my great friend, Erin, and we've become sort of like you two. I'm guessing that you two talk all the time, and you talk about your artwork and accountability almost. And I met her at the Chicago Fair, and we've become like really good friends, and she just gets it. She's a teacher. So she she convinced me to come back to Chicago this year. It was going to be a new venue, and I'm glad I did. So that's where I was. I was in the other art fair in Chicago. And it was at this really great venue. It was called Artifacts Events, and it was just a cool space, lots of brick and chandeliers. There was a lot to see in the space aside from the artwork. And, you know, I did well. I don't know what it is. Like sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends who's there.
Yeah.
So you can never really predict.
What's involved when, like, you go to these big shows, right? I assume it's kind of maybe similar to the artist project in Toronto, which I was at a few weeks ago, not displaying, but as somebody going to visit. Like, for the artists to do this, it's a fairly huge undertaking, isn't it?
It really is. It requires a lot of planning. Of course, there's a big financial investment.
Yes.
Also, these booths are not cheap. It just depends what size you get, and that was something that was nice with my friend. We shared a booth. We were
nice.
So that cut the cost, but you know, for that we had to. The other art fair lets you do that. I don't know about other fairs, but we shared the cost. But you both have to get into the fair. You both have to be. You have to kind of send what your booth is going to look like, and our artwork is similar. So we had it pretty curated, and so we both got in. So that made a big difference too with cost. But yeah, I mean, you have to plan your space. You have to figure out what price range you're going to be in. You want to have prices that are all over the place. You don't want to just come in with big giant pieces. I've done that, and I think that's what happened last Chicago. I had really big pieces, and you know, that's hard for someone to just invest so much money in such a big piece. So this time around, I had smaller pieces. I had framed pieces, which I've never done, and just a range. I had paper paintings for $75. And then I had like a bigger giant painting. So, you know, a little something for everybody, but it's a lot of work. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of work. A lot of
I would think a long day each day.
Yes. The other art fair has a reception. So usually you go there on a Thursday and you install on a Thursday, and then that night's the opening reception. So it's a lot of like VIP people. And then Friday is long. It's like 8-hour days.
Yeah.
8-hour days. Yeah.
Well,
so you have to have stamina.
Well, the good thing about sharing a booth, at least then somebody can run to the bathroom while the other is coming to grab coffee or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think once you go to these fairs, you meet so many great artists, and they're all just willing to pitch in. You know, they know what it's like. So they'll be like, you go, and, you know, I'll tell them. And if a person comes to your booth, you just let them know they'll be back. And so there's a nice camaraderie between artists too that helps.
So as the work sells, does it just come off the booth wall and your booth gets empty, or do you replenish as the weekend goes on?
Yeah, this is the fun part about the other art fair, is that once it sells, it's off the wall. They just take it. They walk right out with it. Yep. And there's no real storage. So some people might have extra work depending on where you're coming from, but I just leave the blank holes with the red dots, and I feel like it's exciting. It's like, ooh, why is she selling? You know, what's so special about this? Right. So it's kind of nice. It doesn't matter that there's blank holes.
Well, that's your social proof, because humans are attracted to things that other humans have.
Exactly. And
it's like, oh gosh, there's not much left. I better not hesitate on this one.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And I do the same thing when I walk by. Yeah. I'm like, why is there so many red dots? You know, what's great about
I'm going to get in there and see what's happening. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Speaking as someone who visited the artist booths at the artist project, I know that the artists who had small pieces, even if I love something big, but I was able to go home with something small, right? So as a collector, you think, okay, this is a great place to start. You have a visual reminder on your wall of that artist. So maybe next time you see them, you're prepared to get something a bit bigger, right? It's just nice to leave with art.
Yeah.
It really is. And
without
I feel
spending
that
thousands.
And art should be for everyone. So that's why I make these little tiny paper things, because there could be, I mean, I've had you know, young college students that'll buy one and they're so excited because they've purchased their first work of art, and you're like, well, you just, you know, put it in like a little frame and it's adorable, and it starts that process of just collecting and appreciating.
Slippery slope.
It really
is a slippery slope when you start buying original art. You know, you start looking at all the stuff you have on your wall that isn't, and you're like, got to replace it with something real.
No, and there's so much I love, and there's so much I can't afford.
Did you buy anything?
Oh, I know.
I did not. You know, I was, sometimes you can trade though.
Right.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. My friend that I was speaking about, Erin, that's how we met. We loved each other's work, and she's like, do you want to trade? And I'm like, yes, I want to trade. And then we just ended up we just have one of each other's like large paintings, and it was great. So sometimes it works out.
Yeah, that's really great.
I know, but not everyone wants to do that, or, you know,
no, they don't
come to. And I can understand, you know, you need work for your shows, or if you don't like their work, like it's
then it's kind of like, it's a little awkward. Like, I don't really want to trade you for
that. Sorry, there's nothing I like.
Or oops, I need everything. I can't trade. But sometimes it's pretty natural, so you got to just go with it. So and I'm actually. What's that?
I was just going to ask, do you have any other big shows this summer?
So I am not signed up for anything right now. I'm going through a divorce. I know it's like too much information, but I'm just trying to reset my life and figure out what's next. There's kind of some moving and all that stuff, but I'm always, I guess my next thing is making some work for that gallery in New Hampshire. I have to get that up to her, but I don't know about the shows. I'll see, break. Maybe in the fall.
I think you've got your hands full from the sound of it. If you're going back to teach, and that's going to be a change, and getting ready. I mean, I know what it's like. August is not summer for teachers. August is, you're getting your classroom set up and you're figuring out your curriculum and everything like that. I would say cut yourself some slack.
Yeah.
You've been busy.
I know. I have. Mama needs a break.
Have some of my bubbly.
Thank you. I haven't, it's just lemonade. So. I don't know if drinking was part of the chat or not.
It has
always
been.
Welcome.
We've had scotch. We've had scotch on here before.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's early for you guys.
It's early for me,
not as much for me.
Where are you, Barbara? Where do you live?
I'm in Ontario, so it's what is it now? 2:30 here.
Yeah.
But there was what was the name of that lovely artist we had on from Scotland?
Kirsty Matheson. Yeah. And we had her on Robbie Burns Day.
Yeah. And
I don't know what that is.
I think 7:00 at night for her. And so I think you had scotch, eh?
I had scotch. It was 11 a.m. I had scotch.
Yes.
What are you going to do?
I had scotch. You just go with it, right? Like, sometimes it's what we have to do, right? We just suck it up and sure, I'll have a scotch.
Yeah. It's a big sacrifice, I'm sure.
Nothing bad happened.
But normally, no, we wouldn't be drinking. Be fun. Like the final, the last half of the show would be really exciting.
It would be. Or I would just be passed out. Who knows?
Or I may be dozing off. That's generally what happens.
Yeah.
So, Erika, what's your? You probably haven't had a lot of time to reflect, but so right now I'm in the midst of a sabbatical from my other thing that I do, and I'm trying to make some decisions about what that looks like at the end of that period of time. And I know for me, having 6 months to just focus on making art and being in my studio every day and starting to do some of the bigger outreach stuff has been fabulous. So I'm just curious, what, if you've had time to reflect, what are your biggest takeaways from this time away from?
Yeah, well, it's funny because when I started painting, I actually took an actual sabbatical, and it started in 2016, and I'd been working for about 10 years. And, I just thought, I have been teaching for so long, but I don't make art. And I felt kind of like a fraud almost, that I would, right? And Barb, maybe you can relate to that.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my district let me take a sabbatical, and it was half the pay of my salary. I mean, it was like a no-brainer. And some people think like, "Ooh, I can't live with half my salary," but you absolutely can if you're cutting things that you don't. That's one of the big things that I took away of all the things that you don't need in your life.
Right. That
cost money.
Clothing.
And if you're
you don't need clothing, you do not need a ton of outfits.
You're so true. I mean, I've been wearing the same pair of sweatpants like every day, and I'm happy. I'm like happy I don't have to think about what to wear. It's just, and just we sacrificed some things because it was important. And this time around, it's been a leave and it's no pay. And I think it was just sometimes, you know, if you're able to, it's worth it to just pursue what makes you happy and what's going to spark some joy in you. And you can make it work, you know, and I had little jobs that I did just to bring in a little income. And so I think it's the reflection part is that, you know, your passion matters and it's what's going to get you through life.
Right.
And what are you going to remember and what are you going to regret if you don't do it? You know, for me, it was always the thought that one day I will regret not devoting time, a good chunk of my life, to what it was I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to have a career, and absolutely, and it's, you know, you need income, and there are times in your life when you have to, but you also have to attend to that other side too.
Yeah, and if you have kids, you know, I have a son, and we focus a lot of attention on him, but you know, he's going to go off into the world one day, and you want to make sure that you have something in your life that's yours, that's going to carry you through, and you know, just be yours and nobody else's, just your own.
Do you ever think about like your legacy, right? Like, you know, one day we'll all be gone, but to leave something of yourself behind other than your kids, right? But something that you have made, and knowing that your art is going out into the world, and there's always going to be bits of you still around that are you. Like, I kind of think I like the idea of that kind of a legacy.
That's so interesting you mentioned that, because I was speaking with this wise friend of mine, and she was talking about legacies and how they're not necessarily, you know, you can leave things for your kids or anyone money-wise and assets and things, but you know, what do you want them to remember you for? And you know, I think about that, and I want my son to remember that I just followed what I wanted to do and that it was important to me, and that he thinks about that. So yeah, it's so interesting. That's the second time I've heard about legacies, and yeah, like my paintings are a reflection of that, and they're kind of out there in the world a little bit too.
And it's your marks on a surface. It's like you made that, right? There's something so tangible about that. You know, anyways, I guess I'm at that age. I start thinking about those things.
I know. It's important to think about those things. Or, you know, I'm sure both of you have been to a museum and you just stand in front of a painting and you're like, he was here. He was in front of this. He made these marks.
We had that experience at the Museum of Modern Art where you're almost overwhelmed because you're surrounded by stories. You know, it's like whispers from all these artists, like you're surrounded by it. And it's like, it's almost overwhelming. Like you feel it.
Yeah. I mean, I've cried in front of paintings. I'm not ashamed to say it, just because they've moved me so much, and I'm getting chills almost. You know, it's really powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
I was just curious if you've ever asked your son what he thinks about your, not your art, but about your following your passion for your art.
He's so sweet. I think he's like my biggest fan.
How old is he?
I know. He's 12. He's you know, I feel like I have a couple of years of sweetness left. But he's just like a kind, compassionate soul. And when his friends come over, he takes them up in my studio and shows them. And so I feel like he's proud of what I'm doing. So that means a lot to me too.
It feels really good. Both. So I have two sons, right? And they are 19 and 24 now. So I'm kind of empty nested, except not, because one of them just moved home for the summer and brought all his shit with him.
They never really go away.
No, they don't.
But they both requested paintings from me.
Oh.
So when the youngest went off to university last fall, he asked, would I paint him something for his dorm room? And here's the color palette. And my oldest son just moved out of the house in January to his first apartment, and he asked for a large painting. Again, he's the color palette. He's like, I want black and white, and I don't like the jelly beans that you paint. I'm like, oh, okay.
I
so
hope
you don't want my art
in there somewhere.
I didn't, but I told him I could not do anything without color, so I ended up doing a painting that I quite loved, black and white with a beautiful some beautiful scarlet red bits in it, and he loves it, and he shows all his friends. And so my youngest son, a bunch of the girls from school started following my Instagram account because they've seen the painting in his room, and I don't know what that means, but
right. You don't want to know, Tamara. Don't ask.
They're
don't
just
ask.
getting, borrowing some sugar or something.
So it's actually really interesting, though, because when they don't comment on a day-to-day basis, and for me, I will tell you, so I started discovering myself as an artist when my kids were older. And it was a complete 180 for them to see me going from what I was doing to what I'm doing now. And I often wondered, what do they think? They probably think I'm just nuts. Like, what's she doing next? But they just quietly sit and watch, and they're absorbing, and they're seeing that you're excited about what you're doing and how it's expanding. And then they surprise you and ask you for work.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's amazing. This opening that's happening on Thursday at the hotel, like one of the perks, which I didn't even know, was that you get to stay at the hotel the night of the opening. And I know, so
that's awesome.
I was like, really? This is incredible. But I guess, they have my art for a few months, so it's like a nice, thing for them to do. So I'm inviting my son, and we're going to hang out, and I'm going to, show him that this is what can happen, like when you follow what you're interested in, and you can, nice things can happen to you if you're passionate.
Good life lesson. It's a good life lesson. Yeah. And good to see you. It's good for him to see you kind of pushing your boundaries and doing things that maybe, were uncomfortable at first, and, got to be a little brave.
Yeah.
But the opportunities
I guess
that come from it. That's a great thing to teach your son.
Yeah. And he gets to, skip school on Friday, so it's even better. I think he's most happy about that.
Yeah, it'll just be interesting to see what he absorbs from that experience, because he'll see you interacting with other artists and the gallery owners and the public talking to you about your work, probably, right?
Yeah. There's going to be people there. And I think us artists, I don't know about, but we're like naturally introverts. I don't know. I think I am. So it's hard.
Flip though. Can't you flip the switch? I can flip the switch and become an extrovert, but then I'm exhausted.
Exactly.
Exhausted.
It sucks.
And then I have to let go.
See, I would think that, Barb, because I've spent 24 hours with you, and you just never seemed like you were exhausted or introverted at all. Go to sleep.
There's no switch.
But that was fun, and that was different. Right, but okay, if I'm around people I don't really know, I can become much more introverted. But if they're like-minded artists, it's easier.
Yeah, and if it's your friends, it's a different story. But people you don't know, it's really like putting on a performance, teaching.
But
it's
I do love talking about my art. Oh yeah, and there's that with teaching. But I love talking about my art. That's when I get really, really. If somebody wants to ask me about a painting, I've got them for like 20 minutes, and I won't let them go and make them touch it.
But that's how you tell. That's how you know that you're on to the right thing for you, right? And I've noticed that shift in myself. What I used to get passionate about, reading about, learning about, talking about, I'm not passionate about that.
Yeah.
It's just
yeah. You're right. It's like you can feel that little internal furnace just kind of kick in.
Yeah.
And here we go.
Here she goes.
And now I'm really gonna. It's true. That's the litmus test, I think.
It really is. I think if you're excited to talk about what you're doing, then you're on the right path. Yeah. And we do get bored. I got bored of this handwriting stuff I was doing. I was like, oh, I don't feel like talking about it anymore. Like,
I'm done with that. Yeah. Then you got to move on. Talk to me about stripes. I can talk to you about stripes now for days.
What kind of tape do you use? Actually, I have been wondering.
Well, here we go.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, have an hour?
How much time do we have left?
All right. So there's a few. But you know what? I do like frog tape. I think this is frog tape. Oh no, this is 3M because I think it was on sale. But the secret with the tape, and honest to God it is to use the gloss medium. So you tape it, and you can use crappy tape. I think it was Kyle was telling us, and Kyle might even be on this call now. And he uses any kind of crappy tape. Maybe he doesn't use a gloss medium. Maybe he does. Anyways, but a little bit of gloss medium along the edge, and then I get my hair blower because I'm impatient now, and I want it to dry it, and then put your paint on. And go back with the hair blower and then take the tape off, and it is surgical.
Oh,
there is not any bleed.
Or
gloss medium. And I have my crappy little brush I use to put it on with.
I use the soft
I think this is
gloss
the one
gel. That's what you say?
No, I use gloss medium. I have 2 buckets of gloss medium. One is older, so it's like, I don't want to say snot, but it's like snot. It's like glob. And I will use that with my little brush, and I save my nicer gloss medium for, like an isolation coat. But just like a little dab will do ya, and just run it along the edge of the tape, and then add your paint when the gloss medium is dry. It dries very quickly. Oh my God, you have to try it, Erika.
I'm going to try it.
You're going to become, it's addictive. And if you need a day to just kind of like calm down, I look forward to it. Like I'll do my wild stuff. Like all the paintings have like wild areas and crazy out of control areas. And I save the stripe and the hard edges for the very end. And it's just like, it's like meditation.
Yeah. I mean, they look beautiful.
They do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What I can see. Yeah.
Amazing. Have you ever thought about doing it the other way? Masking off areas and then, I guess,
going nuts? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know
I've done that too.
Like painting your wild stuff and then
too.
masking those off and then pulling the tape off later, and you've got the wild bit showing instead of paint.
I have wild bits though. There is wild bits. Yeah, some of those stripes are actually the crazy bits. And then sometimes cool things happen. I was pulling tape off, and I don't know if something weird happened, and the stripe kind of collapsed and moved. Like part of it looked like it had been excavated, and I thought, it's perfect. I love it. So the stripe is like disrupted in the middle, and then I got into sanding and stuff. So you can really have fun with playing around with that chaos and order sort of sensibility.
Insider secrets here. This is fascinating because I've always wondered.
Yeah. So gloss.
Well, and you know what? I use it for my edges because I like my edges to be pristine with no paint on them other than the ground that I've used. So and some people don't like to do this because it takes forever, but I am meticulous after I paint the background of my board. So oftentimes my panels aren't white gesso. I've got coats of turquoise or red or pink as my ground. And then I tape my edges and I seal them all the way around. So later on, when I'm done, I do not have to worry about painting my edges.
Yeah. And isn't it the best feeling to peel?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I love it.
Nothing better. and especially if it's a long piece, it's like, here it goes, here it goes, here it goes. And it's like perfect the whole way.
So satisfying.
We could do a whole show on
We could. I think
and gloss
we've
medium.
talked about tape before. We've talked about tape a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I believe so.
How much time do you have left on your sabbatical tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. I technically, I said I wanted to take a 6-month leave of absence and make a decision at the end of what things look like afterwards. I've not really figured it out yet, and that's supposed to be the end of June. But I was very clear when I left saying, don't keep any of my classes for me. Find replacements for them. And, you know, people get used to new instructors. They don't necessarily, by 6 months gone by, they're not going to remember me, or it's not that they're not going to remember me, but they're going to be used to the new whoever's teaching those classes. So, and those people will probably be enjoying teaching those classes and have integrated that into their schedule. So the answer is I don't really know. And I have to research before I can go back. And I have done nothing.
That's a sign.
I think it's a sign. I think it's aren't you supposed to figure this out by June? Or July?
I mean, give or take.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
yeah.
No, I'm telling myself I do not have to have it all figured out. That there's no time in my life I ever have to have it all figured out. So there's no pressure that way. And I sort of have inklings towards what I may or may not do, but I'm not sure. You know,
it'll come to you.
Well, it'd be nice to be earning money.
Right.
That's the downside, because it's, you know, I don't get paid if I'm not working. But maybe I'll sell a painting. Maybe I'll sell a painting this week.
If I could just paint and someone pays my salary, I mean, that's ideal. That would be the ideal situation without having to work. I don't know.
Someone pays us to paint.
Trust fund somewhere. I don't know. I'm waiting for my trust
sugar
fund.
daddy. We get those offers all the time on Instagram. Don't you get those?
Yes. Yes.
They're so gross. So we,
gross.
you know, could have a sugar daddy.
Ugh.
I don't know. Like if all they wanted was pictures of your feet or something, you put those up already. Like, you can go for that.
That's true. I'm happy to share photos of my feet with me in my pajamas. That's it.
As far as it goes.
I'm going to ask you afterwards too, Erika. Somebody asked if you could share more specific details about your projector. They were interested in that. So I'll write something up in the show notes, and then if you just want to, you know, if you've got a link or something, you can pop it in the comments, then that'll be there, because not everybody knows what a projector is, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's such a, in my mind, it's such a common thing. It's really not special at all. So yeah, I'll go look at the brand and just put it up there. It's like a small one. Yeah.
That would be great.
No problem.
Have you ever done a reel with you using your projector?
Like a realistic painting?
No, like a reel.
No, a reel, it's IG lingo. It's like a little video of
I'm like, have you not seen my work? No.
You're Erika, right?
I haven't, but that's a really good idea. It might, shed some light on my secrets.
I would like to see that, because maybe a projector might be a fun way to start different pieces. Honestly, just mix it up.
Yeah, maybe just like a quick, a time-lapse process video.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing I love about it, and what you said that really resonated with me, was the issue about composition and it giving you something to start with. I think that's the same reason why I love to take photos, because I notice in my photos when I'm out and about in the world, I have way better eye for composition than I do when I'm staring at a blank canvas. And so I've done things where I've taken, like, I have a huge album of cracks in the sidewalk, because I got really obsessed with those during COVID walks. I was taking like 20 pictures a day, cracks in the sidewalk and asphalt and everything. But what I did was I had my husband print a bunch of them out on the laser printer, and I blew them up, and then I did photo image transfer right onto some of my boards and use those as a background for starting to apply paint over. And it's beautiful, because if the composition isn't quite right, you move it. And now I've got this great off-center composition that if I were to try to paint black lines on something, I wouldn't have come up with the same way.
Yeah, you can see it ahead of time. And I'd like to just say that all the photographs I use are my own, so I'm not really taking other people's stuff. So I feel like it's a legitimate way of starting a composition. And I'll just use like little pieces of it, like you said, cracks or things that you just find fascinating, and you're still thinking about composition. You're just taking a little more control of it and moving it around.
Yeah. Or seeing something that maybe you just can't visualize in your own head. Like, just sometimes you'll see it, it's like, oh, that's it. I would never have thought of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so cool. Well, we're coming up on an hour.
I know.
It's already an hour.
Almost.
It's like chatting with old friends.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it felt like that. That's what it felt like for us too.
Aww. Are you guys
actually
going
really
back
way to come back?
Are you guys going back to New York anytime soon?
Well, that would be the question.
We're ready.
We're ready.
Just have to
I'm ready.
The logistics of it.
Ready to meet you for margaritas one night.
How close?
Oh, listen to that. She's in New Jersey. It's not that far, right?
Okay.
An hour and a half. I, can do that easily.
Okay.
Yeah. So
we'll keep you in the loop. We're kind of working on things right now.
Okay. Yeah. What do you guys have coming up?
I'm dying to go back. I'll tell you that. I'm dying to go back. And I've told everybody who will listen to me how badly I want to go back.
Yeah.
It looks like
I think it's got to be twice a year.
You had a great time on that trip, didn't you?
We did.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Trip of a lifetime.
Oof.
Until the
Gotta do it again.
Oh. Should we just
we should say bye. We should say bye. Oh, do you watch Smart? Do you listen to the Smartless podcast? Because it's time to go.
Yeah. Oh, no, don't do that, because we need people to come back next week.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Heck.
Come back.
We
Thanks
really
for inviting me.
guest.
I'm so glad you guys thought of me and
Our
invited
pleasure.
me.
I was really, really happy that you agreed to come and chat with us. So
Anytime.
it's really good to catch up, and we should catch up more
Yes.
off camera.
Absolutely.
Well, you can always come back.
Okay. When new things happen, I'll come
We
back.
have a painting behind you.
Yes.
Time.
Yes.
Get one
I
back.
promise.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck with the 6 pieces you need to get ready for the new gallery. I'm looking forward to seeing them when you share them online. And
Thank you.
Good luck with your recovery from last weekend.
Yes. Still recovering.
Yeah, I bet.
Lots of sleep.
I bet. Well, I hope
All right.
you can watch us next week.
Okay, we'll see everybody next week. Come back next week. We've got
back
another
next
guest
week.
for you.
Really good one. Wink, wink.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.